Hi, Meg.
Hello, hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Rewired podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about another topic that was requested, and that is about eating more than the minimum and kind of letting go of that control. So, today, we're going to talk about how that shows up in both when you have an eating disorder, but also in recovery, as there are massive overlaps. But it also, like the justification around eating the minimum can change, and it can be really sneaky. And you think you've kind of like put it to bed with your eating disorder now that you're in recovery, but actually it can kind of morph and change. And so we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about like why it happens, because I think it's really easy to have a lot of shame around it and also understanding, in a more compassionate way about why you're experiencing this is a really key part of the journey too. We're also going to be talking about the impact of it, how it impacts your life, your happiness, your freedom, all of those things, and then how to challenge it and why it's so, so worth challenging it. So, Meg, can you kick us off with like what did eating the minimum look like in your eating disorder, like in a practical sense, that the foods, what that looked like?
Yeah, I would say I struggled with it a lot. I probably had some rules around it, like official rules in my head. Uh, Things like relating to meal plans, having minimum versions of things. If I had options of snacks, always choosing the lower option. If I was in a restaurant and could see the calories on the menu, having to have the lower. Or I don't know if I was spreading butter, peanut butter, whatever onto my toast, that I'd have to do like I would do the tiny a minimum scraping of that. Um, yeah, there was a lot of ways it turned up. One of the things was like having restricted versions of things. So I don't know, say like spaghetti bolognese for dinner and you'd want to put cheese on top, but feeling like the additional bit was like an unnecessary, like it's a bowl of spaghetti bolognese without the cheese on top. So then that would be labeled an unnecessary calorie in my head, and then I'd feel like I'd want to restrict it down to like the bare bones of something basically. But in doing that, it's kind of then restricted down to like the most boring version of something, the one that you can't join in with other people. For me, like especially when I was younger and lived at home, my dad would be cooking and we'd have to like serve my portion. He'd make this lovely risotto and put like butter in it and cheese and all delicious stuff that everyone would join in with, and I'd have to have separate portions so that I was like controlling what was going into mine, kind of thing, which I really hated. Like the not just being able to join in with people and have whatever everybody was having, but generally the like whatever everybody was having was beyond my like minimal quantities of things. So, like, did you have the same kind of experience?
Gosh, yeah. And like even like what you're saying about the food part of joining in, like even saying like, no, I'll serve my own so that you can have like the
Mm.
minimal amount of the food or like avoid that part of the dish that you don't want to specifically have or avoid the sauce or whatever. Just like imagining like ladling like curry or whatever. Like if I've been in my family's house, like I didn't want any of the sauce. I didn't want too much of the rice. I didn't want too much of the bread. Like just an amount that would like appease my eating disorder and also like appease the people around me. Like, no, I am joining
Mm.
in. I am having it, but like it can be feel quite lonely, can't it? Because it's nobody maybe can see it. Like in that instance, it was very obvious, like to your
Yeah.
family, that you were having it before everybody else. But sometimes it can be like other people think you're really joining in and you're actually having everything. But actually, in your mind, you've really brought it down to the bare minimum so that you're
Yeah.
just, yeah, getting by.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Like if when I started challenging things, like, okay, I'm going to have burger and chips and a cheeseburger and chips, and then thinking, oh, but I really, really want that sauce inside it, or I want two, three sauces inside it, but not being able to kind of like justify it, feeling like, but you've got one sauce inside it, you're not allowed two things. Like everything was, if you can get away with a version of something, why would you have the
Absolutely.
That would make sense there, but
It really, really does make sense. And a term like one of my clients has used, it's like when you're doing that, you're shortchanging yourself all the time. And I love that word because you are, that's what you're doing each time. Each time, like you're, yes, you're having that one thing, but because you're missing out on something else. And until you
yeah,
allow yourself to have that, like you're
yeah.
mentally always going to be craving it and thinking about it and
Yeah.
preoccupied around it.
I think that's the thing that I never felt like, hang on, I did feel like I was missing out on stuff, but it felt like whatever I was missing out on, I couldn't justify doing it. Like it didn't feel like enough of a thing. Like that's, I think, where I labeled it unnecessary calories because I couldn't see the purpose of having it. Like, but why have the I won't make the noise again. Why have the additional thing when you could get away with the minimal version of the thing? And I couldn't make sense of it in my head. Like, what would be the reason that I would allow myself to do? Like, now I think there's tons of reasons. And now I can see, like, of
Yeah.
course it's worth it. But at the time, like, it just was such a block in my head that, like, no, anything beyond what you can kind of get away with having, why
Yeah.
would you?
Yeah. And I this is like that reminds me, Meg and I did like one coaching session together this week with a lovely client. And session, you mentioned this idea of kind of like getting by. And so like, but nobody ever goes through life just trying to get by, trying to just satisfy their hunger so they can just get through that moment until that kind of hunger is unbearable again, and then you're gonna eat again. So I think like that's an important thing to remember as well, is trying to be like, well, I don't just need to get by in this moment. And also, just because you're not maybe like physically hungry, I mean, I think a lot of people are very disconnected from their hunger anyway. But like just because you're not feeling unbearably hungry, should we say, that doesn't mean that your body doesn't need that food. Like mental hunger is a thing. If you're thinking about food, like that is a sign that you're hungry too. So I
Yeah.
think people become very disconnected with like actually their hunger and fullness cues when you've got an eating disorder anyway. And that can come because you've just stopped listening to it for a long time. It could be digestion, like so many things, right?
Yeah. On that, by the way, it's not really on the topic, but the hunger thing,
Mm.
even in my eating disorder, like I ate so routinely, 3 meals, 3 snacks, or like whatever I was eating. I never did it led by hunger. I know people, I have spoken to people who do use hunger, but I was so like structured. And even now, honestly, like I wouldn't say I eat because I'm hungry. I'm not like, I don't come to lunch and think now exactly how hungry am I, and I'll exactly match that with the, like I just have lunch because it's lunchtime, or have lunch because other people are having it. Like I'm not really, I don't really like, do you know what I mean? I feel like I
Yeah,
don't
I do know
because
what you
I'm
mean,
hungry
because
in that
maybe
sense.
you've just got you're like less needing to kind of be conscious about how hungry you are. And because though you're feeding yourself regularly, like now as a recovered
Yeah,
person, maybe you never feel overwhelmingly hungry. You know, like that.
never,
Did you ever get
really.
that? Did you ever get that panic hunger when you were recovered, when you had your eating disorder? Because I got that. Like, you know, when you just feel really hungry and it's not a nice feeling. It's not like that quick win, that quick high. It's actually really overwhelming and scary. And you're just like, I need food right now.
Yeah.
You didn't really get that.
Well, I ate so structured, honestly, and
Yeah.
I
Mm.
ate enough in that sense, kind of thing.
Yeah, to like get you by. And that's so interesting, isn't it? Like
It
it
is.
shows like even though you were doing that, your body was so underfueled and still needed it. And so you really can't rely on your hunger, I think. Like even in
No,
recovery, you can't. It's like a
no,
very down the line thing. And maybe not
yeah,
even for somebody who has a health legacy of an eating disorder. It may be like that whole idea of eating when you're hungry, stopping with your fork. Maybe that's something that
yeah.
wouldn't
I
protect your recovery.
honestly, I think lots of people don't eat like that. Like,
I
even
don't
if I think,
either. Yeah.
no, if I think about the people I love, I don't think they're sat there. I don't think they have breakfast because they've tuned into exactly what level of
No.
hunger or fullness am I. Or
No.
even during a bowl of cereal, they're not like, how exactly how you just eat it because it's in front of you and it's the portion and it's breakfast time.
And yeah, it's breakfast time. And like, but also probably if you didn't eat at that time in like an hour when you're in the middle of work,
Yeah,
you're really going to be hungry. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just not a thing in their lives. Like you said, it's just like this is the time to eat. That's when I eat, and
I just know what you
that's it.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So never fully being able to like join in, enjoy,
Mm.
fully satisfying yourself. Always like having these tight controls of what you're allowed.
Yeah. Yeah, but I feel like isn't it such a metaphor of life with an eating disorder? Like everything's the minimum version. Your life becomes a minimum version.
Exactly. I can't agree with you more. Like that is something I've noticed so much. And I think I've noticed that through coaching because I don't think I was able to have that awareness of myself when I was going through it. But I've noticed that like when whatever you are doing in your eating disorder, it seems to translate to your life. If you're always giving yourself that minimum version of food, it seems to translate to allowing yourself the minimum things in life. It's almost like
Yeah.
just not giving yourself permission. What else in your life are you not giving yourself permission to do?
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
actually the healing part is not just giving yourself food, it's actually healing and giving yourself so many other aspects of your life too.
That's so true. Even like using your things, buying things, that kind of thing. Like everything becomes very restricted down. And like for me anyway, it was like very hoardy and
Yeah.
Yeah, like spraying perfume even. It would be like, well, you don't need to spray perfume, like minimum version of it. You can leave the house without perfume on, minimum version of living to do it. But then like looking back, I'm like, how sad that I lived the minimum version of life.
Yeah, yeah. Just not feeling like deserving of anything. That's kind of like what's
Yeah.
underneath it all, I think. Um, yeah, minimum version of like minimum amount of like giving time for yourself. I see that in people as well, like who kind of following this sort of like way of living, like they don't ever give themselves self-care. So that can be, yeah, in so many ways. And so yeah, that's another reason why it's so worth it, isn't it? So
Mm.
also going on to like how this shows up in recovery. This is so interesting to me because I think sometimes when we think about the minimum version of thing, we think of, oh, it's just something that's related to when you're in your eating disorder. But I think it really does morph and change. And what it always reminds me of is like, do you remember, Meg, you talk about this idea of like the bubble kind of like growing slightly, but you're still in the bubble, you're still in the
Yeah.
cage, you're still in the jail. Like I think with recovery, that's what can happen is like you're like your minimum becomes a little bit bigger and so you're like, well, it's better than it was, but it's still a cage. It's still a bubble that you're not able to kind of like burst and get out of.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And there's still life sitting outside on the other side kind of thing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And this can happen for a range of reasons. If you're somebody who is working with a treatment team, I can imagine how this can fall into a thing. You know how like when during our treatment we had to like challenge things 2 to 3 times a week if it was like something that wasn't a daily thing, like maybe always choosing the 2 times. Like you know what I mean? Like always going with the lower end of things. I can imagine maybe if a dietitian said to have 8 to 10 tablespoons of food, always going with the eighth. And so like
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
things
With
I sometimes,
undercutting.
yeah, that when I notice that with clients, then sometimes I'm like, I want you to purposefully go to the upper end of the range, like almost like break that rule. I don't know if you relate to that at all, or you've seen that.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Like, yeah, like when you've got two snack options that you choose the lowest, that kind of thing, which can feel so like compelling and like you have to do it. You feel like unsafe if you haven't done it or just uncomfortable because you've broken the rule kind of thing. But I
Mm,
guess like how is that rule serving you? Is
mm,
it working to always have the minimum version, minimum version? Like to me, it keeps you like thinking about food all the time, planning food all the time, counting food, balancing food, like running through your day of food. Like everything is just such a food obsession.
absolutely.
Also makes you so anxious around food because like if you're going to a restaurant, there's the anxiety of like, what are they going to have? Or if someone else is cooking for you, like, is it going to fit my minimums? Or if they're using an ingredient that you feel like goes beyond your minimum, like the whole thing just keeps you so locked in food. Like if you, that example of 8 to 10 of something, to me, like the sticking with the 8 all the time is that's what keeps you locked in. Like freedom is I'm going to go with the 10. I'm going to go with 11. I'm going to go with 12. I'm
Yeah,
just going to like let go,
absolutely.
like it's the maintaining the rule. Like as long as you act on that rule of having the minimums, then you're maintaining, okay, I have to have minimums. And then you live your life around having minimums, which is a really like stressful and consuming existence of food.
Anything, I
Mm.
think you could almost feel like more isolated and more lonely because people then are like, well, she's eating normally, she's having whatever. But in your head, you know that you've got this massive upper limit
Yeah.
constantly or using the small amount of something. Um,
Yeah. Sorry, what you say there about upper limit, that's something I've spoken to clients about as well, is like thinking of where your ceiling is. So say you go to a cafe and there's like calories written on cakes, and then you're like, okay, so it has to be within this number, or it has to be the lowest or whatever. Like you're setting yourself your ceiling there. And so then anything that goes above your ceiling is going to always feel scary. And every time you do it, you're reinforcing that like this is my limit. Anything above this is not okay. So you're going to have loads of anxiety, you're going to have panic, you're going to have to read every single item. But if you forcibly choose the highest, like
mhm,
even if it's not what you fancy, but you're doing it for a purpose, like you're doing it to break the ceiling. So if you make yourself have the highest and you do it repeatedly, repeatedly, and then you're like, oh, this is now okay,
mhm.
like not compensating around it, repeating the challenge, blah, blah, blah. And then anything then becomes okay. Like if your ceiling is now the highest, then like what can you do? Try me. Like now any option, I feel like that's how it all neutralizes because once you know you can have anything, you know you can have the higher, then anything is fine.
I can't agree with you more. And that sounds so empowering as well. And then if you have like those amounts that maybe like a dietitian's given you or your treatments team given you, instead of seeing them as like the ceiling, seeing them as a safety net. Like, so it's not, we're not saying like go as low as you want as well. It's kind of like you said, 3 meals, 3 snacks. You're not going to go lower than that. That's your safety net, but like the sky's the limit. Just don't feel like you've got that ceiling on you as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing from my work, actually, when I worked in a corporate job, there's always like jargon phrases, but they came out of one recently, which I absolutely loved, which was we operate with, hang on, freedom within a framework. That's what they said.
Nice.
So like, we
Nice.
have structure, we have a framework in place, but there's freedom within that. And I was like, oh my
Mhm.
God, that's so great for recovery and for like a meal plan or something, because it gives you the structure. It gives you like, okay, I know I'm eating this many times, or this is my minimum, like genuine minimum I can eat above kind of thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then you've got the freedom, like, and I think like for me in recovery, things like when my family were cooking, they'll have crisps open and olives out, which actually we just did last night whilst we are having dinner, and like lovely olives with feta cheese, delicious. And I wanted to be able to live like that. Like I wanted the freedom to be able to do those things without being like, oh, but that's now going to have to be something taken out of my dinner, or that will count as this part of my snack. I didn't want to remove part of my snack because I'd eaten an olive, you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
feel like that's that like like I had the framework in place, but also the freedom to kind of like push the boundaries a bit and like live aligned with my values, or live aligned with what my family was doing, or live aligned with the future version of me, how I wanted to be able to live, that kind of thing.
Yeah, can't agree with you more. Like it's like I used to remember really like helicoptering like around people. I call it helicoptering because it's just like, when just like somebody's cooking and you're just like, what are you putting in? Da 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 da. And then it just goes back to like what you're saying, like, is that the person you want to be? Like
Yeah.
that, this is why you're going to recovery. You're going to recovery so you don't have all of those things that make you like not feel so good about yourself anymore, because you know that it's not value aligned. Like it feels icky because it's like so colliding with who you truly are. And so
That's
like if you need kind of need to like, yeah, break through that and keep going and not be stuck in that place.
That's so true. And again, the ceiling, like if anything's fine, then when that person's cooking, you don't need to watch because you don't mind what they're putting in the pan, what they're cooking that in, how this is prepared, what extra's going on the top, blah, blah, blah. Like anything is fine. But as long as your ceiling is like a minimum, then yeah, you are going to have to watch someone because people don't operate in minimums. Like most people don't want to minimize their life down and their food down in that way.
Right.
So you do have to police it if you're trying to stick to a minimum versus if you set your ceiling as like it's okay, it's fine, anything is fine, then what have you got to watch? If anything's fine, then you don't care. You don't need to watch what people are putting in the pan.
I know, and I don't know if anybody else relates to this, but like men in my like my husband, my stepdad, they love cooking, and when they're cooking, I don't know, I think they're Jamie Oliver or something. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, pop this in, pop that in. There's somebody with an eating disorder. You're like, okay, why is that extra go? Why is that extra sauce? You really need that cheese. It's not gonna taste any different if you add that. Like I remember, like
Don't eat dribbles.
you don't need crystals. You're not going to taste any difference. Put two things. Like I remember like arguing that kind of like it's really not necessary kind of thing. And then you're like, oh, they sing it Jamie Oliver for a minute. Like just let them be Jamie Oliver.
Yeah,
I was stopping
yeah.
their dream. I was stopping their dream. And so like it just didn't feel right. Whereas now I let them be Jamie Oliver.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't this lovely? And I truly enjoy it. And it does taste better. So, I'm
Also,
wrong there,
it's
but
different.
mm,
Like even if it did
yes.
genuinely had no taste difference at all, the necessariness of it is that
Yeah,
you can allow someone else to do what they want to do. You're not
yeah,
person that has to step in and control. You're not having to micromanage or watch or police. Like
yeah,
again, if it's not values aligned, like I hated doing that in the kitchen.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I far prefer like just letting people get on with it. You
yeah.
just do it and I'll eat it. Fine. Anything is fine, you know?
Yeah, because I think food, like people preparing food for you, like it's almost like a way of showing love as well. Like I think so, like when you sit down and like you enjoy it, it feels so nice to them. And it's like, oh, thank you so much for getting this garlic bread. Like I don't know, it just
Yeah.
feels like they're like, oh, that's so nice that I felt
Yeah,
appreciated. So
definitely.
it's lovely
Definitely.
to be the person that is the one appreciating that rather than
Yeah,
what did you put in
definitely.
this?
Yeah.
Da, 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 kind of thing.
Yeah. And that can be labeled as necessary. Like that's another thing I did was like when I thought, oh no, this is unnecessary calories, I'd like relabel why things are necessary. Like it's necessary for spontaneity, for joining in, for not trying to control other people, for letting things be, for feeling free around food, for not having food dominate your thinking and like not having panic after the meal or panic during the meal. Like that is so necessary. You know,
Mm.
if you want to live that free life, then actually those what you're labeling as unnecessary calories are necessary for a free life.
Can't agree with you more. I can't agree with you more. And really tapping into yourself with that one, because sometimes you feel like you need the validation from somebody else, and sometimes you do. You do need somebody else to say, why don't you have the olives with the feta and enjoy it? But I think that like you could easily say, oh, do you know what? I don't like olives. Said a lot of that. I said a lot of that. I don't like this. I don't like that. To kind of like
Don't
just,
like unnecessary calories.
I don't like unnecessary. I just don't like tasty food. It's just not my thing.
Actually, what I don't like is anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What I don't like is anxiety and the stress that comes with it. But like then trying your best to like give that validation to yourself and be like, no, I am allowed those things. Like this is why I'm recovering. I do deserve stuff. Like why am I kind of like limiting myself with this?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, definitely. Because loads of it will be invisible as well. Like the
so
example of like a cheeseburger and you want however many sauces you want on it. Other people aren't necessarily going to know that. Like they'll think you're doing fine, joining in. Great, she's having cheeseburger and chips. She's doing grand. But if you know and you're wanting the extra thing, like it's invisible, but it's your quality of life. It's your brain that you've got to sit in, and it's your life that's still got a food boundary around it. Whereas having the number of sauces you want, that's the smashing the boundary and being like, no, there aren't
no,
limits to this stuff.
yeah, absolutely. No, no, I can't agree. When you're saying about the different sources, you know, that reminds me of like, you know, when you go to Five Guys and you're just like,
I've
have
been
you,
to Five Guys. I don't think so.
sorry, what?
Because we
Yeah,
always get Shake Shack because the
um,
milkshake's so good. We actually had one at the weekend.
yeah, they're really good. Shake Shack are good too. And my husband's very into burgers, so we tried a lot. When you go to Five Guys, you can like literally choose what sauces you want, what inside things you want, like everything.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, it was always really helpful that my husband would literally have every sauce and every topping inside. So I'd just be like, yeah, same as him. And so like I remember in the beginning, that was so helpful. And even like at home,
Yeah.
that was something I'm kind of going into like how to challenge it. But like that just reminded me of it so much of like sometimes when you're challenging, just say, same as that person. If there's somebody who you think is very flexible around food, isn't tied up in it, that can be a really helpful way to kind of
Mm.
like challenge it. But also
Mm.
going back to like why it's hard sometimes, I also think sometimes it can be really praised, especially at something like if it's
Mm.
orthorexic or something, somebody's like, wow, you've got
Mm.
really good control. And you're like,
Mm.
oh my God, this is
You
not
have
fun.
no idea the
Or you could feel
sacrifice.
good. Or you could feel good about that. Like it could feel nice that somebody is recognizing you for something.
Yeah.
And you're like, then how do I break it? Like, how do I
Yeah,
now
but
control when it's my thing?
with that though, like I would say with that, yes, it can feel nice. It could be a great feeling. It could be a part of your life you absolutely love. At what cost? Like you don't exist in isolation with being the person that's recognized for having control or being praised for whatever. If it's also coming that you don't feel spontaneous, you're not connected to people, you're thinking about food all the time, like you've got to have a complete picture on what this element of your life is. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't just exist in isolation that it makes you feel good. If it also brings like sacrifice and there's a life cost and it makes you feel bad in other areas, it's like a cost and balance thing. Like, is it worth it overall?
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, like somebody might comment on how much control you've got, but it isn't really the thing they truly care about with you. Like
Mm.
sorry to jump to the end, but if you get to the end of your life, nobody's going to stand up at your funeral and say, you know what, she had really good control over her food. Like they're actually
Mm.
going to say, like, she was kind, she was giving, she, like, when I was going through a crisis, she was able to stop what she was doing and be there for me. And me having control was stopping me from being able to do all
True.
these things in the ways that I wanted to do them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with what you said.
That's so true.
At what cost?
That's like the inside validation as well. Like someone else can say, "Oh, wow, you've got such good control," blah, blah, blah. But you can complete the end of that sentence in your own head, like, yeah, and it comes at a huge life cost. Like other people won't always know these things. It's the invisible element, but it's fine that you know it and that's your truth and you hold on to that and go, and therefore I'm not acting in line with that control because it doesn't serve me. It's not the person I want to be. It's not how I want to look back on my life, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. Complete the sentence. Like
Mm.
if somebody says something, complete the sentence in your head. If you don't want to say it out
Mm.
loud, you could say it out loud. But if you don't want to,
Could do.
you could do, yeah, like teach them something. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or
it's like,
also you do an invisible eye roll. Like people would say stuff and I'd literally just in my head think invisible eye roll, what you've just
that's
said.
good. I love that. These are like practical little ways though, aren't they? Rather than to be able to kind of let go of those comments. So,
Mm.
um,
Before,
yeah.
sorry, I have had a thought whilst we've been talking, just before I forget it, we'll move on.
Mhm.
We're talking about like freedom within a framework or going beyond and blah blah blah. Also, I guess there's like a piece to recognize that based on people's treatment and if you're on meal plans and that kind of thing, like it's not just for us to say, here's what to do, da da da. Like, of course, if you're with treatment teams and like they'll give advice and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, is everybody's recovery is so different. Like, it's and if you're working with a treatment team, they're tailoring it all completely uniquely to your situation. So yeah, we're
mm.
just sharing what kind of came up for us and what was helpful for us for sure.
Mm. And also, I guess it changes as your recovery progresses. Like there were times where I needed more exact structure. And then as I got better, I was able to bring in more of that freedom and flexibility and moving beyond and pushing myself and being like, no, I am going to have the whatever,
Mm.
even if it's not written on my meal plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were kind of like supported to do that as well. So
Mm.
yeah, that's a really important point. Thanks, Meg. Um, Yeah, so we kind of mentioned earlier about the fact that it can feel really lonely, thinking about the impact of these things. It can feel really lonely. It can kind of feel like you've got a bit of a secret life. Like I think
Mm.
when I used to do those things because I didn't want to create tension between myself and my husband, I would sometimes do with them without him realizing. And so you kind of like holding all of that within you because yeah, if you're with somebody and you're going through an eating disorder, you know how much tension or stress that can create. So yeah, it can feel scary and alone, and you're definitely not alone. I don't know if you felt like that, Meg, at all.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, it took a lot of like planning and feeling like I was managing my own control and rule and whatever. Like it felt like a separate life to how I was kind of showing up. And you're so torn as well between I
Yeah.
want to show up and be the person that goes out for dinner and whatever, but if you're also trying to maintain this and I have minimum versions of things, like there's quite a conflict between living a full life but having minimum versions of food, like they're not really compatible. So
That's
in some way, it's going to take a lot of like work, planning, behind the scenes, compensations,
and
something to be able to
self-motivation.
show up in that way. It's very stressful.
Yeah, and also like being untruthful. I found that
And
bit really
also,
hard. I really didn't like that bit, but yeah, it just did not feel good to me. Like that is actually
yeah,
one of my like values I feel strongly about is like being truthful. So like that didn't feel good at all. It
so
just
true.
yeah.
Yeah, and just being an aligned person, I guess, like that you just operate in one way and that's you, not like this sees this version of me, but I privately do all of this version, da da da. Like it's yeah, kind of icky
Bad,
place to
isn't
be.
it? Like that you're kind of like trying to be that person for everybody else, but you don't get to be that version of you for you. Like,
True. That's so true, actually. And all the benefits of being like that, like being a bit YOLO, living your life,
yeah,
joining in, having fun.
yeah, you don't get to enjoy.
Yeah. And you're the one putting in all the behind the scenes effort and sacrifice and whatever.
Yeah,
Just not
absolutely.
nice. So true.
Yeah, so life kind of narrows down. Um, yeah, and you don't get to put on your pedestal what truly matters to you because so much of your brain space is taken up with those kind of controls and keeping the minimum. Like that takes a lot. It takes a lot of headspace and planning and mental stress to kind of do that.
Mm. Also, it's never a what's the word like long-term solution, like a what's the word for that? Durable, I want to say, but that's not the right word.
Sustainable?
Yes, yes. It's not like or like long lasting, enduring. It's not like you do it and then for the rest of your life you're like, oh, good, I've
Mm,
stuck to my minimums, I've got control. Like it's a blank slate every single day. You
mm,
have to retick those boxes every single day. So you're like in a hamster wheel to keep up with
yeah.
sticking to the minimums. You know, it doesn't give you long-term peace or long-term, now I can back off and rest. Like, no, because tomorrow you're going to have to do the exact same thing again. And then those days add up and add up and add up. And then you look back on the year and you're like, what have I actually done?
Yeah.
Even though in the day it felt like the most important thing, like, yes, I have to stick under my limits or to my minimums or whatever the rule feels like for you.
Mm.
But yeah, long term, is it what's it bringing for you?
So true because it does feel like such an achievement in the moment and it does bring you so much a fake sense of safety. Like
Yeah.
chaos could be going on around you, but you're like, I have the thin slice of butter. Like, it's like that's the thing that made you feel safe in that moment. But like you said, if you then look over the course of a year of like what did you achieve in that year, you
Yeah.
you maybe you achieved a lot, but all of it is around like just coping and getting by and never being able to be truly present. Like you've spoken about this before, like this idea of like we ticked so many boxes actually when we had our eating disorder, but never fully enjoyed them. Like it all feels like a little bit grim when I look back on it. It all feels like
Yeah.
not a fully happy. I'd actually like to achieve less and be happy.
So true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And enjoy the things that you do achieve or feel present for them or
Yeah.
connect with people through them. Yeah, very
Absolutely.
true. But it's
Absolutely.
difficult, isn't it? Because that in the moment is so compelling. And sometimes it is effective. Like you can get, I feel good for having stuck to whatever. You can get a feel good. Or sometimes you don't even get a feel good. You just avoid a feel bad. I just feel okay for having done whatever. Like I want to, like that desperation, I just want to feel okay. I just want to feel okay. So I have to tick my boxes to just feel okay. And
Mm.
in the moment, you're like operating like that. But it's also so fragile because life changes and easily something can happen that like knocks you off a box, you're
Oof.
not able to tick a box, you're not able to whatever. And then you fall apart. You don't have anything then. Like if you were literally relying on, I don't know, if my shoe's on the table, I feel okay, and someone knocks your shoe off the table, you've lost your sense of okay. Like how fragile is that it was your whole sense of okay was based on is the shoe on the table?
Completely agree. And it is so easily fragile. Like it's that idea of like, one of my clients was saying, like, when you go to a coffee shop and you're watching the barista to like watch how they make your coffee exactly, or like, the person in the restaurant brought your food and you're like triple checking that they changed the meal the way that are you sure
Yeah.
you didn't add that? Are you sure you
Yeah.
cooked it in this way? And it's like,
Yeah. God forbid they did drizzle something.
imagine if they did. And that had happened to me where I'm like, are you sure you didn't put any on? And then you take a bite and like, I'm sure I can taste it. I know they.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're like, then that is like a thing that literally, like you're saying, like knocks you off that box. And like that was the thing that was making you feel safe. And now your day is like crash and burn because of that.
Yeah.
So you're right, you're trying to rely on something that is just, yeah, you're just, and I think one of my clients, she used such a good word. She said like when you're going through your eating disorder, you feel like untethered to yourself. And I love
Mm.
that word. There's this fantastic book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, which I really recommend. But it's like you're so untethered to yourself that like when you go into recovery, you're trying to look to anything to tether you back to something. You're like, just
Yes.
that rule or that minimum or that control to like make me feel safe is so
Yeah.
understandable. So like that's the compassion bit,
Yeah.
like have that compassion for yourself, but then be like, oh, I'm tethering to the wrong thing. I need to tether back to myself. Like I can do that. Like I can tether back to my values and who I am, but it takes work, it takes support. Like you don't have to do it alone. But yeah, just
Yeah.
like bringing awareness to that. Don't know if that made sense.
Yeah. 100%, 100%. And it's very uncomfortable, like
Mm.
cutting that rope to that thing that you did feel tethered to,
Yeah.
not doing it. Like when you've got the compulsion there to do it, the thoughts to do it, like everything in your being is telling you to do it, and you'll feel so wrong not doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Like even
So
that
difficult.
visual of like cutting the rope, what you're saying, like that's just
Yeah.
like I as you're saying, you're like, oh, like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, and that's
Yeah.
like what it is. Like when you eat your fear food, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I just did it. Like I get that a
Yeah.
lot, like from messages from clients, like I just did it, eek. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not actually, it doesn't feel like safe and tethering and
In
soothing
the
in the
moment. In
moment.
the moment.
But then
Yeah.
when you do start to like bring that back to yourself, it does feel so more aligned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And having that bigger picture and like with time, it does start to feel okay. You have to kind of like push through it's so uncomfortable. And then you do start thinking, oh no, this is fine. I can do this.
Mm. Yeah.
But it's very uncomfortable the first couple of times. I guess it's just like, are your actions aligned to how am I feeling better in the moment? Or are they aligned to how do I want to be living my life? Who do I ultimately want to be? What are my values? Where
Mm.
do I want to be a year from now? Like that bigger picture versus that looking through a straw of like what feels okay in this moment.
Yeah, I love that. Should we talk about how you challenged it?
Hmm.
So, yeah, how did you kind of like move through it once you had gained awareness of like, okay, yeah, I have got a ton of minimums in my life. Was there a more structured approach? Was it more like kind of as things came up? How did you work through it?
I guess I had like different things for different things.
Yeah, yeah.
Like one of the things I can remember is like with spreads, that kind of thing. picturing that I was making it for somebody else, because if I was doing it for someone else, I never would have served them toast with like the thinnest version possible of a spread. I'd have given a nice, juicy, tasty
Hmm.
peanut butter and jam, whatever it is.
Hmm.
So doing that helped, picturing that I was doing it for somebody else.
Yeah. And also, like, if you're making it for somebody else as well, like, make two and then get them to choose which one. Like, I do that sometimes because then I'm like,
Mm.
don't make, you know what I mean? So then there's
Yep.
like less tempting to like make this.
That's a great idea, yeah, to try and always undercut your version of it. And then you're also like, this is mine, this is mine.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Are you
To pick yours
sure
up
you want this one? It's closer to you.
like a magic trick. Oh, that's yours.
Yeah. No, wrong choice.
But that's the double life thing again, isn't it? It's not a nice
Yeah,
feeling. Like
it's
it seems like
horrible.
so minor, but one of my goals in recovery was interchangeable portions. I
Oh,
really wanted Bren to be able to dish up dinner and me to say which one's mine and him to say either.
oh,
I was like, oh, absolute goals. And that's where we are now. Like he'll dish and I'll be like, which is mine? Or I'll dish and he'll say, which is mine? Either.
yeah.
Like, so the
It feels,
relief,
I agree with
the
you.
tension.
I do the same when I dish it up. And when it's that when you do say either, it feels so good. It feels
It
so
does,
nice
it's
to
so
be able to say that rather than
liberating.
this is mine. I don't know,
Yeah.
it feels different, doesn't it? Like, and at the end of the day, you're actually hurting yourself, but still you like there's so much shame with it as well. Like it's so sad, isn't it? Like that you feel that way, you
Yeah.
should feel that way towards yourself, but it just doesn't feel aligned. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, so that was one thing that you did.
Actually, one. Yeah.
Mm.
Another would be like making myself break those rules of what did I have a rule around a minimum version was. So I don't know, sandwiches, having like multiple fillings in it, melting cheese into like on top of whatever I'm having, that kind of thing. Like forcing my boundary to be bigger than a minimal version, like that I'd have spread and mayo and a filling with cheese and a do you know what I mean? Like, and if I'm making a toasty, it's like I can put spread inside, I can butter the bread, but it's not just like one source of this, one version of that, one blah 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 of this, like kind of breaking that limit and being like a sandwich is just a sandwich.
Yeah,
It can have different various, because especially when you go out, like they make sandwiches with multiple fillings, and if you've only ever allowed yourself like a minimum version, it's not really that compatible with eating out.
I completely
And then
agree.
I think eating out can be a helpful way to do it as well, especially if it's a place that doesn't have calories on the menu and you're trying to break that like limit on how many items I've got inside or whatever. Or if it does have calories on the menu and you're trying to break that there's a minimum, well, the minimum really becomes the maximum, doesn't it? But like there's a maximum version amount of calories I can have in it. So I think
Absolutely.
those things I found helpful.
Yeah, no.
Hard, but helpful.
Yeah, that idea of like the components of things, I think is really interesting as well because I notice that as sometimes people who have kind of um working on recovery for a while, they're like, right, this is my source of protein, this is my source of carb, this is my source of fat. So then, like, if you wanted multiple, like
Yeah.
I don't know, you wanted a curry with a naan bread, which is totally
And
normal,
poppadoms. Yeah.
and
We have chips
poppadoms.
as well. We have chips
Yeah,
with our curry.
oh, British.
I
That's
know.
British. Bit of curry sauce and chips. That takes me back to my
Very
youth.
basic.
That takes me back to my youth, college days. Yeah, like if you want multiple, like have that. It's nothing wrong with it. Like actually, that's what is normal to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, like breaking those kind of rules.
Yeah. I
Mm.
used to think in recovery, like there's not a little man sat at my mouth policing it. Like he's not sat there with a checklist of how many carbs are coming in, that you've got like rice and bread and chips on a plate. That little there's no little guy. I was gonna say that little guy doesn't care. He's a little
Yeah. He's there, he just chilled out. Yeah, no, it's so true, isn't it? And like, and if when you make food into that kind of like checklist, it takes the joy out of it. It takes the ability to have freedom around it out. And it was never meant to be this checklist. When we don't just eat because we need to tick a ton of like boxes, we also eat for enjoyment, for connection, for I don't know. It's so much more. Food is such a gift, isn't it? And it's meant to be enjoyed. It's not just meant to tick, right. I think I reached the right amount of carbs that my body can just use to get by, or just have my
yeah.
period, or just whatever. It's like, you know, enjoy
Yeah,
it.
that just meets my rule or my criteria.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, exactly.
exactly. Um,
You, what sort of things did you do to challenge the going over minimums?
yeah, I think for me it was a lot about like checking with my values, which I know we talk about a lot and we've kind of spoken about a bit here as well. But like thinking about like who is the person that I want to be, like what type of person do I want to be in the world, and like always sticking to these minimums. I felt like I was still had my eating disorder. Well, I did still
Yeah.
have an eating disorder. It's still
Yeah.
an eating disorder, you know,
So
but it was just like I didn't feel like I had the freedom from it. Like the reason why I was letting go of my eating disorder was because I wasn't happy with the version of what me that I wanted to be. And I
true.
think that like along with other things of like wanting to have children, all that kind of stuff, but ultimately I was not who I wanted to be when I had it. And so like keeping to the minimums, I still wasn't able to break that true reason
Yeah.
for that. So like always being like, okay, what type of person do I want to be? And how good it felt when I did let go of that. Not initially when you challenge it, don't get me wrong, but when you do it multiple times over and over, and you are the person to say, oh yeah, whatever, or how would you like it? Yeah, it's such a
Yeah.
good feeling rather
So
than
nice.
like having your criteria.
Yeah, so nice, so nice. I still find it so nice now. Like when I can say
Yeah.
something I thought I'd be able to say or do something,
Yeah.
I'm oh, like, yay.
Yeah, you never take it for granted, do you?
No,
You really do
not at all.
appreciate it
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
It's funny that one, isn't it? Like there's parts of your eating disorder you just forget and you're like, I don't even remember that happened. But like that
Yeah.
feeling of somebody else being able to do food for
Yeah.
you. Somebody says, where do you
Yeah.
want to meet? And you're like, oh, whatever, wherever you want to.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, and you didn't need to check the
Yeah.
menu and you didn't need to do that. It's such a good feeling.
Yeah. We met some friends in the park recently, and my friend called on the way and she's like, we're stopping for coffees. Do you want us to get you one? And I was like, oh, yes, please. I'll have an iced mocha. And then, so I didn't like know what shop she's going to, anything. Like that's the only order I placed. And then she got it. It was lovely. It also came with like a date. You know where I got it from.
Oh
Came with a
yeah.
date.
Oh yeah. Love that place.
Exactly. Nice cafe.
Yeah.
And also it was done with like, it had like bits of chocolate in it. Like they must have like put a chocolate bar in it and blended it kind of thing.
Mm.
But I was just like, yep, I'll have it. However it comes is fine. I wasn't like policing it or checking it or, freaked out
Yeah.
by something I'd found in it or,
Yeah, yeah,
it's just
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, join in. Thank you. That's lovely. What a treat.
So nice. That's such
It's
a
a nice feeling.
freeing
Yeah.
thing. That's such a nice freeing feeling. So I think like always trying to connect back to that is so lovely and just kind of like zooming out and you know that video you shared once? It was like this girl and she was like laying on the grass and it zoomed out, zoomed out, zoomed out
Oh,
until the
yeah.
entire
Creepy.
universe. I actually watched that like 10 times. I
Oh,
mean, I've
it's
seen
very
those
creepy.
before as well, and I think they are so fantastic because like in that moment you can get like that straw thing that you say, like you can get so stuck into that moment of like this is what matters in my life is the amount of spread I put on my bread. And then you're like, whoa, 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 this universe is huge. This is amazing. So I actually find that really, really helpful of like zooming out and just imagining how small this thing was actually in relation to this whole entire world and everything that was going
Yeah.
on in it.
So
Um,
true.
yeah.
Even in relation to your whole entire life, like if you zoomed out of that moment and expanded across weeks, months,
Mm.
years, forwards and backwards,
Yeah.
and then with that as well, I guess like time hopping,
Hmm.
if you look backwards and see how long have I been sticking to this rule,
Yeah.
it doesn't just change. You
No,
never wake up and spontaneously go, oh, my brain is now ready for going, minimums don't mean anything anymore. Like
absolutely.
it does, it'll never spontaneously change. It happens through action and showing yourself that it's fine.
Mm. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And like that's the thing is like it kind of almost like habitually got to that place, like that amount that you allowed yourself over time, over time, over time. So like you almost like habitually need to get yourself out of it as well,
Mm.
like challenging it in the opposite way.
Yeah, yeah. And just questioning like, does it work for you in the bigger picture? Like complete the picture of your life, even if it does work for you in the sense that you feel better for doing it, is it working for you overall? Like even like you feel better for doing it, is that a stable way of feeling better? Is it an enduring way of feeling better? Are you just having to repeat it every day? And also at what cost? Are you
Mhm.
able to do the things you want to do, be the person you want to be, join in how you want to join in, that
Yeah,
kind of thing?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like you say like sometimes like is do you admire the person that's having the cake and the coffee or the whatever in the cafe and then also do you admire the person that's just got freedom of thought, so like if you're not somebody who necessarily like a lot of people would aspire to that, like being able to have a nice chilled book in a cafe and enjoy it, and then some people would just aspire to like, okay, if you can't even imagine yourself being that person right now, if that's hard, like even would you how do you aspire to being the person who has freedom of thought? Because that's for me, I was like, that's so
Mm.
cool that they can have freedom of thought, or somebody can be an emergency and they can just drop what they're doing and they
Yep.
can respond to it. Like if you want to be that person, then it starts with
Yeah.
breaking down
And
these.
be that person.
Be that
Yeah.
person because you can. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you can work with your treatment team as well, like setting goals on how to like gradually move in this direction. And then as you're doing it as well, just having a bit of like no brain, like I don't want to operate like that anymore. Like notice if you're in a cycle of it for however long you've been in a cycle of it, like to get out of the cycle, you'll need to do something different. So I think just saying like you'll get thoughts of like, oh my God, but this goes over this. Oh my God, but yesterday you did this. Oh, da, 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 da. But just being like no brain, I don't actually want to be living like that anymore. Like it will, any eating disorder thought will feel true and believable and compelling,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do something different to it. Like you can say like, no brain, I'm building a new pathway now. I'm choosing a different life.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, like just like literally blocking those thoughts, opposite actions. Um, put the hand up
Yeah.
again. Um,
I can't see it, by the way. It doesn't do
oh
anything on,
really? Oh
and
gosh.
mine doesn't do it either.
Oh, okay. I really need to figure out Zoom.
Sorry.
Um, yeah. So yeah, completely agree. Um,
Mm. With the treatment team thing as well, I know there's like the kind of spectrum of how people have meal plans or treatment, like the all in at one end of like, to me, all it is pretty intuitive way to respond to starvation and all in approach. Like if you didn't have disordered eating and like disordered thinking around food and you were starved or restricted, weight suppressed, whatever, you would just eat, you know.
mhm,
Like if my dog was starved and I gave him access to food, he would just eat his food. But then you've also got like the other end of like a super, super strict
mhm,
meal plan. And then there's probably like points in between, you
mhm,
know, and maybe like you need to start at a very, very strict and controlled meal plan. And then as time goes on, you feel more able to bring in a bit of flexibility and ability to be a bit more like, no, I do want to do this.
mhm,
It's beyond my meal plan, but it aligns to the person I want to be, or it's joining in, and that's really important to me. And I'm going to do it and not compensate around it.
mhm. Yeah, I completely agree. I guess the fear people have like with that is like you said, they probably feel like they're gonna keep eating and never stop and it but that's just simply not the case. And like the more that you give yourself like freedom around it, the less that wanting of something kind of like over and over or the amount of it kind of goes and you just have like more freedom of thought around it and you're just more
Yeah,
flexible. So but it's hard,
yeah,
isn't it, jumping almost into the unknown.
yeah. And you're so right. Like yeah, when you've got like a biological background of like, I do genuinely feel like I want to eat and never ever stop, it's then difficult to like have then it can feel like, oh, because I feel like this I need to hold on to super tight controls because I can't trust my biology. Like
Yeah.
it's a really difficult place to
So
be. I think with that, like seeing it from your body's point of view is really helpful. Like of course your body feels like that.
mm,
Like any human body, look at the Minnesota starvation experiment. Like men without eating disorders who were put through starvation had all that same sensation around food, that they felt like they just wanted to eat and never ever stop. Like it's a very biological, normal response to that situation.
absolutely.
And doesn't mean it will last forever. Like apply it to a different non-emotive, less emotive, hopefully non-emotive. I'll say that
Yeah,
again.
no, I know what you're gonna say, yeah.
If you apply it to like a less emotive example, say like you held your breath, all you would want to do is gasp for air. Like that would be such an overwhelming feeling. But this time next week, if you let yourself take that big breath, you're not still going to want to gasp for air this time next week. Like
Mhm.
your body does regulate and even out and catch up. But like the biological response of being off kilter is like, I'm going to like throw everything at you. Doesn't
Absolutely.
mean it's going to do that forever. Like once you regulate, then things calm down, you stop thinking about it.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. Same with sleep. Same with, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Like I completely agree. It does regulate and it's kind of
yeah,
trying your best to give yourself permission to be able to do that. Yeah,
yeah. I
completely.
think that the thing that's guaranteed to keep you in that place is denying it, is restricting it. You know,
Mm.
like the guaranteed way to feel like that,
I
that you'll feel
continue.
like that forever is
Mhm.
to not do it. Yeah, that's how you're guaranteed to feel like that forever.
I completely agree. Something that helped me as well is like bringing awareness to it myself. And then whether that's like noting them down so that I could actually bring awareness to them and start challenging them and recognizing they're there, but also a really hard one, which was like telling somebody else about them.
Mm,
So,
mm.
ugh, it feels so gross.
Hard.
But like, yeah, it's so hard, especially if you're telling somebody who lives within your house. It's like
Yeah,
one thing if you're telling like a professional who's not going to come
yeah,
to your house and like make you do
yeah,
something, but to tell like your partner. And also it can become like a bit tense, can't it, when you don't, if you're having a moment where you just can't do it. But I think it is one of the most powerful things you can do is to be like, I'm really struggling with this. And like, can you make my sandwich? And I know you did that as well. Like this
Yeah.
idea of like, when can you make my sandwiches? Like, because I am really struggling with the 20 million steps of like how to make it.
Yeah.
Or like,
Number of things.
absolutely. But also like do speak to your treatment team about it and like allow them to like, support you through it. But I think speaking to somebody and having them to help you practically make it or whatever, or even yourself, if you're like living alone, for instance, like make it the night before. Like make it the night before when you're not in the moment with heightened anxiety. I used to do that a lot with like things like my breakfasts because it was super early in the morning because I was teaching anyway. But it was like, yeah, just adding all the toppings. One of your clients, Meg, she calls it like a porridge party, doesn't she? Like just,
Yeah.
I love that. I still love that topping. Every time when I make porridge and I've got all the toppings, I'm like, I
Yeah, the
literally think
porridge
of her and
party.
I'm like porridge party. I love that term. Like, and then just adding it all the night before so that in the morning I don't have like, how much of this should I put on? How much of that? Like, it's done. It's like,
Mm.
I'm not going to scoop the peanut butter off. It's just, it's there now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or go back and forth with a spoon or different size spoons or number of heaps of.
No.
Well, yeah.
Oh, no, 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 no. Yeah. And yeah. And yeah, maybe moving away from
Yeah.
like the kitchen or whatever so you don't have those temptations.
Yeah.
Mm.
Even that though, the like back and forth and picking this up and picking that up and going back to the cupboard and going back to the like the paralysis thing, even just being like, I just don't want to be a person who does this anymore. Like,
In my life.
no, like no brain. I just don't want to be trapped in the kitchen backward and forward between cupboards or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. You couldn't even imagine what like your kids going through that. Like it would just be heartbreaking, wouldn't it? That's why I've got
Mm.
like that special place in my heart for like parents who are supporting their kids through this because it's just heartbreaking. It must be so heartbreaking to see them
Mm.
do that. But then also if you're like a parent or an aspiring parent, eh, just thinking like I would never want that for them. And like
Mm.
that's your measure of success. Like that if you don't want that for them, then you don't want that for yourself truly. Like deep
Yeah.
down, you don't want that for yourself either. And to just
Yeah.
start challenging that.
Yeah. Or little you as well. That's the other one, isn't it? People put a
Oh,
picture of like them as a
I love that
baby or
one.
toddler on the fridge.
Yeah, I love that one.
Okay, hopefully that was helpful and just even just reflecting on like where am I choosing minimal versions relating to food, to your meal plan, whatever. And then also the corresponding impact on your life. Like where is this making my life a minimal version of my life or of me, of my personality, of my relationships, that kind of thing. Because as much as you do get trapped in the food decisions and that feels like everything in the moment, there's so much more in the picture of you, in the picture of your life. So I think having that like step back and looking at it can be so helpful. And then thinking about what would I like to do differently? Like how would I like this to change? Where do I want to be a year from now? And then whether it's working with your treatment team or people around you to make goals to make that different and make practical steps because like if it doesn't change, it doesn't change. You know, if nothing changes, things stay the same.
But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully it was helpful. And yeah, do please speak to somebody to help get support with it.